Welcome back, everybody. Joining us right now is one of my good friends, Jessica Anderson, the Executive Director for Heritage Action for America, our proud partner and sponsor for the show tonight. Jessica, always a privilege to have you on the show.
John, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's an honor. This has been such a great discussion, and I want to turn to the states, the grassroots, because now that the big government, federal government, has been pushed aside by the Supreme Court, abortion becomes a states' rights issue. Tell us what's going on in the states right now as people digest this ruling and try to implement it in the laws of the great states of America.
Thanks, John. So what's happened over the last few weeks after the Dobbs decision so decisively came down and overturned Roe v. Wade and sent the decision of abortion and protecting life to states, you have two different buckets going on. One, you have about 26 states all across the country that already had some sort of law on their books as it came to protecting life. Of those 26 states, 13 states actually had what's called trigger laws or spring forward laws. They were conditional laws that would only go into place if Roe was overturned. So that bucket of states is actually in a really great shape, John, because they've got laws on the books that protect life, and they're doing it in really magnificent ways. Two cool things have actually happened from that. Georgia, which was a state that had a law in place that was running through their state Supreme Court, actually was decided this week that it could be the law of the land. And that Georgia law is extraordinary and has great protections for protecting life. SB A-List, which, as we all know, is a great friend and leader of the pro-life movement, they actually estimate that of the 26 states that have laws on their books, that already, since the Dobbs case, over 110,000 babies have been saved. So it's awesome. Amazing that so many states were prepared. And then now we've got the rest of the states, 30 or so, that have kind of either they're going to become these abortion havens like a California or New York or Michigan, unfortunately. And then other states that have begun to call a special session, John, to actually take up this issue now before the fall. And that's what we see in South Carolina and Indiana and Oklahoma and some of these other states that have called for these specials just this year.
Yeah, amazing. It's an incredibly dynamic moment in American history. Now, you have been pro-life your whole life. You have a lot of personal experience with you, your family, and those around you. Tell us a little bit about how important pregnancy resource centers are to the women in the middle of this debate.
Yeah, thanks, John. I don't get to talk about this often, but I actually grew up in a very pro-life family. My mom has been on the front lines of the care side, running pregnancy resource centers, both in the great state of Florida, where I'm from, and then here in Virginia. And so my entire life, I've seen modeled for me just the power and the kindness and the empathy that comes with these pregnancy resource centers, where not only do they show these women, these abortion-minded women, the science of pregnancy, they show that ultrasound, they show that baby in utero, but they actually meet them with compassion, and they talk about a holistic view of helping that woman, whether she needs a job or she needs to go back to school or she needs additional childcare or she just needs baby supplies. And so the role of the Pregnancy Resource Center, and there are centers all across the country that are thriving. They want to help protect life, and they want to help support the woman that has found herself in this position and get her through this tunnel, ultimately giving birth to the baby, and then exposing her to great options like adoption if she's not able to keep the baby herself.
Yeah, such an important thing. And right now, those centers are coming in under both verbal and physical attack, even though they're doing such common sense work. I mean, most everyday Americans say that's exactly what we want to make available to everyday women. There's a lot of rhetoric. There's a lot of myths and facts that get distorted, particularly in the mainstream media today as this debate heats up, that all abortions are for safe for women. That's not true. The pro-life movement only cares about being pro-birth. They don't really care about pro-child. None of that's really true. How are you and Heritage Action for America fighting some of that misinformation?
Well, the best way to fight the smear campaign from the left is just to pound with the facts. And so we have a number of resources available on our website, heritageaction.com, and it includes really detailed myth and fact sheets. So not only do you know exactly how the Dobbs case will impact your state, but you can fight back against some of these lies, everything from how the ruling would affect a septic pregnancy, if a mother's life was in jeopardy. I mean, you just saw so much distortion and very dangerous lies. It's not just rhetoric, John, because it ends up actually hurting women that should be having life-saving care from the doctor. And now the doctor has politicized the most intimate part, frankly, of healthcare, which is when a woman is visiting her OB to get checked on and to have care for her baby. And so we want to cut through all of that. We've got a great number of resources so you know exactly what the details are. And especially when it comes to these pregnancy resource centers, which, as you mentioned, have been under fire and attacked from the left. That couldn't be true. I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. These are truly women's healthcare centers, and everyone, regardless of partisan persuasion, should be supporting care for women on the front lines like they do. So know the facts. It's the best way to fight back and to have these really important conversations at the local grassroots level.
Yeah, so important. One of the myths has been since the ruling came out that America is now a third world country when it comes to abortion, but it's really not true. America is only one of 5 countries in the world where you can legally get abortion after 24 weeks. How has the left tried to ignore that really extraordinary fact?
Yeah, the left has, and so have leaders from Europe. I mean, Meghan and Harry were comparing America's abortion laws to England's and to the rest of Europe, and it's like, look at the laws that you have on your books. If anything, we're more sane because we're now being very thoughtful about the decision when it comes to protecting life. It is at the state level, closest to the people. And of course, there's a role for the federal government, too. And that's where you've seen, I think, Congress take up 2 really important pieces of legislation. First, the Born Alive Infant Survivors Protection Act, which has a discharge petition with wide support across Congress on the House side. And then second, the heartbeat bill, which acknowledges that life begins not only at conception, but that you then can support the baby at heartbeat. If you were to drop dead on the floor, John, the first thing I do is check to see if you had a pulse. It's the same thing. We want to support babies at heartbeat.
Yeah, such an important thing. Now, you guys have put together at Heritage Action an amazing info kit. How do people in the states and the grassroots get access to that and become advocates for such a common sense piece of legislation?
Well, we need help both in terms of supporting the state lawmakers. If you're in states like South Carolina and Indiana that have those special sessions right now, contact your state lawmaker, urge support for the legislation that's moving through the chambers, read the facts of the bills yourself so you're armed and you're equipped. And then at the federal level, be on the lookout both for this summer and early fall for these bills to hopefully start getting some movement. And certainly, if November goes the way we think it will, John, I think this will be one of the top things that the next leadership in the House brings forward as a way to show that all conservatives, all Republicans are united in protecting life and protecting the health care of women. And so we need the help. You can join the team at heritageaction.com and learn all of this information and get plugged into our task force and our sentinels all across the country that are working to advocate for these policies, both at the state and the federal level.
Yeah, this is an amazing time in history, and a lot of the future of America is going to be decided in the next few months. I want to ask you, we got about a minute left, real quickly. The Democrats in Congress are already trying to federalize an issue that the Supreme Court just told them just a few weeks ago is a states-only issue. Any of these laws, if they were to get on the books by Joe Biden as president, do you feel confident they're going to be overturned by the Supreme Court given its states' rights position?
You know, the Supreme Court has been really clear about what the role is of states and what the role is of the federal government. And that clarity, members of Congress, specifically those on the extreme progressive left, they need to understand the division. And when you see them just lighting their hair on fire, as they've done the last 3 weeks, it's because they don't like the outcome. So they're going to go back. They're going to try to change the rules. They're going to cheat. And then hopefully we're going to have the Supreme Court that will continue to stay strong, lawmakers, both at the congressional and state level, that continue to stay strong and enforce the rule of law such as it exists in this country. That's the bedrock of our great republic. And I'm looking forward to truth winning at the end of the day here.
That it is. Jessica, it's always an honor to have you on. And I also want to thank Heritage Action for making this conversation possible. A lot of media aren't willing to have this conversation. It's an important one, and we're really grateful for the support and the partnership tonight.
Thanks, John, so much for having me. It was awesome.
It really was. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Congresswoman Lisa McClain from the great state of Michigan is going to join us. She has been an extraordinary voice in the pro-life movement, has a lot to say about what's going on in Washington right after this.